You are now listening to Between Us Girls, the podcast, where we discuss life's fuckeries and then some over wine.
Hey, welcome to our show. This is Michelle,
Danielle,
and Sharonda.
and this is
Between Us Girls.
And you can always find us on Pippa, iHeart, soon to be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and www.betweenusgirlspodcast.com/episode. And we're all over social media. You can find Danielle on Twitter at Girl Talk and Wine, Instagram, Between Us Girls Podcast, Facebook, Between Us Girls The Podcast, and on Snapchat, Real Bug Pod. Tonight we're going to talk about the code of silence in the black community. Yeah, I had to put on my reverend voice to say that.
Okay.
So we're going to talk
In the
about
black community.
in the black community. That sounds like
We are getting
You know-
close. Jesse Jackson.
do you know what I just sounded like? You know on Benjamin Button, whenever Claire was about to die, and she was like, "Yo, dad was good."
Oh, good man. Dummy. I hate you.
Oh, Sharonda. Well,
You sounded Jesse Jackson.
Did I?
But okay, go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. So, if you would like to hear Michelle talk like Jesse Jackson more, go over to www.patreon.com/betweenusgirls and you can be a financial supporter of our show. And we would greatly appreciate it. Danielle will show you a titty.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, while you and your titty flap,
Maybe
who
two.
was our fan of the week this week?
Flap?
Because she's
disrespect.
brawl as Satan.
I know, but her
If she
titties-
goes like this,
But I mean, that's implying that they hang low.
I mean, don't boobs move?
I think she has a girthiness. I've grabbed them enough times to know.
So big boobs don't bounce up and down?
I mean, they bounce, but you said flap, and that's just not a great word.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. We are now a
Let's
progressive
go
2018 America.
Let's go jiggle, and we are very sensitive about
Danielle's
our titties.
breasts are going to jiggle. Danielle, who is the fan of the week this week?
Shan Tolliver from our group. She has actually been listening to the show. She's been posting in the group about the show, and she's actually came out of her shell to actually make post. Like
Right.
she was
That
very.
is so awesome.
She
Thank
was
you.
nervous about making a post or whatever, but she's been actually listening and participating. So, thank you, Shannon.
You know, you never have to be nervous about posting in Between Us Girls podcast because, I mean, obviously you don't listen if you're nervous because we say some really ridiculous shit.
The raunchiest shit.
So
Proud of it.
just post whatever you want. I mean, if it's allowed, we will approve it. If not, Danielle will still approve it. And then
Or I totally will. I don't fucking have restrictions, so
I do.
just
So
go.
when they approve it, I'll then comment and say such and such, like, you know, a teacher.
somebody's granny,
Right. So
the titty flaps.
titty flap. Well, okay,
Titty
okay.
flap.
Full disclosure, my titties flap. All right. So what are we sipping on?
Is it like a, or like a more flat sounding? Okay,
I don't know. You'd have to ask Pat. I'm not sure.
Pat. Looks at camera. Pat, you care to comment? Does she have great New York boobs? Today we are.
These are South Carolina boobs.
Oh my god!
These are cotton field titties.
Are they slave titties?
Slave titties.
Your nipple this big.
bitch.
Titty the size of a plate.
Cantaloupe titty.
A small salsa.
Eggplant titty.
Oh my god! Is it long?
Okay. Anyway, so what we drinking?
Well, I mean, you're not gonna tell me? Okay. Anyway,
I prefer not to share all of that information.
I'll find out later. Don't tell y'all. Anyway, tonight we are sipping on. What the fuck is this?
Rue de Plurler.
No, this is not what I bought. Motherfuckers. Okay. Rue de, what did you call it? Pearl?
Pearl.
Yeah, Rue de Pearl. A Grand Vin from France. The vintage is, I'm guessing, is this a Vouvray? Grape.
I feel like the last time we had
Vouvray.
that was like last year, and we were all saying Vouvray. Really bad.
You think so?
I recall.
Let's rewind it. Okay. The vintage is 2015. And the alcohol content on this one is 12%.
Bruh.
Womp, womp.
So while we drink our cold ass yellow water.
Cold ass, disappointing ass fucking alcohol content.
I mean, really though, it is really, really crisp. I like that it's cold. It's super cold, and it wasn't in the freezer that long. It actually affected my sensitive teeth. But it's okay. So we will rate the wine based on appearance, aroma, finish, body, and taste. Body. Give me body. Give me body. Okay. Cumulative high score, 25. So we're going to talk about the code of silence in the black community. Okay, this conversation stems from a conversation that Danielle was involved in on Twitter. Well, she wasn't really involved in it, but like she just was kind of talking about it, and I was like, that's a really good topic. We should talk about it. Okay, so it kind of comes in reference to the Aziz Ansari scandal, which we did talk a little bit about last week. So a guy said he hopes that the accuser isn't brown because she should have kept this to herself for the culture. And then I saw Danielle say something like, we should really talk about this on our show because why should we always have to keep quiet? So I'm going to read y'all some statistics. According to the Bureau of Justice, statistics for every black woman who reports a rape, at least 15 do not. Stars such as Oprah, Monique, Tyler Perry were all abused and forced to keep it a secret.
Girl.
So why do you think, what is going on? What's the tea?
So I think that it sort of stems from, like, let's not have the white man in our business.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we can't have them knowing what's going on and knowing that something is wrong, because if they get involved, then it's going to make matters worse. And, like somebody's going to go to jail, somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, I think it's sort of like a slave mentality type thing, whereas, you don't want to get certain people involved in your business. So it's best that you keep it hush-hush and keep it in the family. When in actuality, I mean, it causes more pain and hurt and harm than it does to actually release this, because I mean you have one individual that's like a victim that doesn't know how to actually express herself or himself, and then you have somebody that is not being stopped. This behavior is continuing, and so they're not only messing with you, they're messing with, a plethora of other people.
Right.
So I think that it's very harmful for people to actually keep these type of issues hush-hush. And I think that it's just to point out, like, it's not only, abuse. I mean, it goes along with this whole mentality of let's not snitch, period. Because... if you're snitching, then you're a mark. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't tell what's going on with somebody, period, or whatever. Like, we need to keep this in the family, to keep it on lock.
Right, because, black people are afraid of prison, which is what it boils down to. If you snitch, I'm going to jail.
Well,
but you fucking up, though.
Yeah.
So it's like...
I think that it's more than just prison, though, because, I mean, it's also how the family looks. Like, it's not just your image that you're tarnishing. Like, it's us as a whole.
I can agree with that.
First off, fuck your clique and...
Fuck your bitch and the clique you
but,
claim. West Side,
but that's part of the issue is, like, we don't want us as a family to look like...
whole, to look bad. No, I agree.
So, I mean, I think that that's also part of the issue. It's not just jail entirely.
Well, I think, and it kind of goes back to even not just being like somebody in your family has sexually abused you. For instance, I hate to keep talking about myself, but I was sexually abused by a black man who wasn't a relative of mine. And I still didn't talk about it with my mom. And I guess maybe it was because I felt shame or I don't know, but it's like we just don't share that kind of stuff because my mom and I, we never talked about sex or anything like that. So I think maybe there's just a kind of a breakdown in our community overall with communication. Right.
As a fucking whole.
With communication, not so much just stuff that we need to keep secret. Because I was listening to Lemonade today, and on Love Drought, Beyonce even said, I live my life in the dark for the sake of you and me. Meaning, I don't talk about the shit that we go through. You know, so that goes back to like what Danielle said about, you know, making sure people don't know what's our business and all that stuff. But it's like, when do we get to the point where we can share our feelings instead of hiding for the sake of, you know, appearances? Because really everybody has issues. You know, there's not one family that has no issues.
But everybody doesn't look at life and the world that way. I'm slowly learning that, like dealing with other people and being around other people. Some people don't want the smallest little detail about their family history or issues or that one uncle or whatever. They don't want that shit to come out. And I honestly, for the life of me, I don't understand why, because here's the thing. I'm kind of crazy when it comes to my children. Right. So you may die. I'm not even going to say may. You may make it to a doctor, but bitch, I'm going to try to kill you. Right. Like, that's what's going to happen. But also, too, I think that in a lot of families, black people tend to want to get the justice or whatever, or just confront the person on their own. Because like what Danielle said,
getting the cops involved.
Yeah, that's one thing you don't do. You just don't call the cops. Like,
well, maybe it goes back to, like she said, maybe the time before we actually were looked at like, you know, actual citizens. So it's like you tell the cops and they gonna do what?
And they look at you and take your ass to jail.
Right.
Because you're standing there breathing and being black.
Right. So you're telling the police and they're doing nothing. So it's like you can't trust them anyway.
Any fucking way.
So why tell them when somebody's doing something wrong?
And you got like 9 cousins that will go get that street justice and we'll be all right. Yeah.
So like, how do we fix it? What do you guys think we can do?
No, I think that we have to sort of develop a culture of acceptance and saying, you know what, it's okay for you to tell your truth and say, you know, this person, not necessarily ostracize, you know, this person from your family or whatever, because a lot of times these things are happening within the family. And you already know, because people are like, you know, don't leave them kids around Uncle Charles.
Bitch, because it's real.
You know what I mean? So, so if you already know that Uncle Charles is like that, why are you continuing to let this behavior exist without checking?
Why is he even the fuck there?
Why the fuck is Chester invited?
Right.
Why is Chester here?
Do you guys watch How to Get Away with Murder?
Yes.
Okay, remember when Annalise and her mom, they had like the come to Jesus about what happened with her uncle or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, the mom handled it or whatever, but it's like, she got so many issues because she never came out and talked about it.
Yeah.
And
didn't the dad not know at all?
Yeah, I don't think
he
knew.
Fucking cried like a baby.
But I kind of feel like, you know, Danielle, you kind of, you brought up the point of just, you know, acceptance. But I think more so than anything, we have to let go of that shame that comes with just talking about it for ourselves, not necessarily like having to worry about whether or not you guys accept me. I have to accept myself.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say that in addition to acceptance, you know, there's also the issue of therapy. Like, black people just shun therapy altogether. Like, when something happens, it's like, okay, we just go to church and this
pray
is
to
gonna,
Jesus,
and we're gonna deal with that or whatever. When in actuality, like you were saying, the shame is actually the source of the problem, because one, you feel ashamed to even say that this happened to me, and two, it's like, oh, what are people going to think of me now because this happened to me? I didn't do XYZ to make it stop.
Right.
I didn't do XYZ for it not to happen.
Yeah.
I put myself in this position, you know. So it's like so you have all of this shame, all of this judgment surrounding this situation, and then on top of that, you don't have anybody to talk to,
right?
Because you have to keep all of this stuff quiet. So on top of acceptance and saying, you know, yes, this did happen to me or whatever, and then your family kind of saying, you know what, this is not going to happen again. We all need to, in that situation, in a family, everybody needs to go to counseling because everybody has some sort of indirect role in the situation because you knew and you didn't stop anything.
Or even if somebody didn't know and you still have to talk to and deal with this person, you don't want to, be insensitive to what the fuck they've gone through, I feel like.
there was something that I read or watched, and it was like the brother had molested the sister. They all went to counseling, like the whole family, and it was like just so awkward, like dealing with that issue. But they did work through it. But and then this is another thing I want to say about children who molest other kids. It's like somebody has likely done that to them.
No,
yeah, I can't remember the name of that movie, but I guess I watched it like maybe 3 years ago. But it was a black kid, and he had this guy that used to drive him back and forth to like basketball games and stuff. But he was molesting him and making him like suck his dick and all kinds of crazy shit. Anyway, he did it to his cousin, but like she was really affected by it. Of course she was, but she was so angry with him. But I guess I kind of felt like, he didn't really know any better either. Yeah. So it was just like they both were victims. But it's
what's that pastor at Lakewood Church, the black guy?
John Gray.
Yes, he also he was sexually abused.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Like
I love him.
Like like an older kid in his neighborhood made him perform oral sex on him. Or whatever.
Oh my
God.
I
mean, and he kept that for the longest. Right. You know what I mean? So I mean, you have those situations, and it's like, who can I turn to?
I was just about to blame the black church too.
But it's not necessarily the church's issue. I think because this happens in white communities too. It's like people are just so ashamed because they're like, why me? Why not the next person?
I don't think I don't think that.
But that's a stage of dealing. I'm sorry. That's a stage of dealing with your grief and your issues. That's just one part of it. That means to me, that's I get it, but I feel like that's only one part of you getting better. Like that's
But a lot of people stop there though.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's no progression. It's just the shame.
No,
they hide it and they lock it away inside and they never share with anyone.
And then they're either they're affected they're affected by it every day in their everyday lives, whether it be the way they treat people,
the way they treat themselves,
the way they think about the way they think about themselves, the way they treat themselves, choose abusive relationships. It could be, the list is a mile fucking long. I just think in the black community, it's a lot of just, let's just go to the church and pray about it. Like,
if you even get to that point.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like a lot of people, well, not a lot, the people that do end up telling somebody, and that adult's answer is, let's go to the church and pray about it, instead of going to go get your child or your whatever, your family person, some fucking real help. Like, you're part of the fucking problem. Like, I'm not even going to pretend, because I'm not saying praying doesn't work. I'm not saying I don't believe in God and all of that, but there's only so much of that shit that you can do. You actually have to work through these feelings. Like, you have to figure out how to pull yourself out of, because I mean, I could imagine that would take you to a very dark place, and you have to find a way to pull yourself out of there. And I'm sorry, but Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all day long with a mother.
Because you're never,
calm down.
I know y'all know I always say this, but when stuff happens to you, I really feel like in order to heal from it, you have to like just lay it all out.
Fucking own it.
Feel all of it. And then just say, this happened. This is part of me. I still love me.
And I'm
still
good.
Okay. It's just something that I dealt with.
Right.
Because, and those are that's for people who maybe say, I don't need counseling. Okay, maybe you don't want to go, but you still need to feel all that shit. And that's what a therapist or a counselor can help you do. Because a lot of times you don't even know how to unlock all that misery that you have inside.
And just the dark fucking place. And like Danielle said, going to therapy is just such a taboo fucking conversation in the black community. It's like, stop. Like, you're not doing this shit for anybody else. If the case is you don't want anybody to know that you're going to counseling, then take your ass on by yourself and just go talk to somebody. There, and if it's that serious, find you a black counselor. If you're a woman, find a black female one that's your age range. If you're a man, find a black man that's your age range and go talk to them. Like, hey, I just want to talk man to man. Whatever the fuck you have to do, but at the end of the day, like, this shit is not about being public or being out in the open about what happened to you and whatever. It's literally about you healing yourself on the inside,
right?
Like,
even if
and
you just
being
talk
okay.
to you about it, you talk to your therapist, your counselor, and then just repeat it back to yourself. You know, you don't have to share it with your family. But here's what I'll say about, you know, therapy being taboo. What also is taboo is sometimes talking about sex. And that kind of leads children into those situations because you don't know when somebody is hurting you when you're little like that. You know, if nobody ever talks to you about your private parts or, you know, what to keep to yourself or what, you know what I mean?
Nobody should ever touch this or,
And people want to use little funny, cute names for shit. No.
Oh, bitch, you got me angry right now.
You know what I mean? Like talk
boiling.
about, like, that's your vagina and nobody touches it. And that's like me and Michaela, like we have straight up talks about it.
Because I have too.
And because it's not just family, it's not just outsiders. So anybody could hurt your child. To somebody at school, you know what I mean? So it's like, I want her to be able to, and Terrence too, I want them to be able to come to me if something happens because I wasn't able to talk to my mom about what happened to me because, first of all, I didn't know what the fuck it was.
And you probably didn't know it was wrong.
No,
or
I knew I didn't like what it felt like. And I told her, I don't want to go back over there. And I think she knew when I said that something had happened. But she just didn't know how to say it to me. Because when I talked to her about it as an adult, she said, well, I kind of felt like something was wrong when you said you didn't want to go back over there. You know what I mean? So I think, like I said before, the communication just among us, period, is part of a problem.
Well, I mean, a lot of times children don't know the language. They don't know how to express and say something is wrong or whatever. You know, like in the book that we're reading, Charlemagne talks about how how in his cousin's wife, I believe, used to make him suck her titties. You know, and he was like 8, I think he said he was 8 or something. And he thought that it was okay because he wanted to suck titties. But I mean, it was to the point where he was like, but why? Like, this really is not really okay. But he didn't tell anybody about it or whatever. The way that he sort of got out of doing it, like, or reason why he stopped doing it is because she got a Jheri curl and he didn't like the smell. Like,
I'm not coming to your house sucking your titties no more because your shit is ugly.
But she was supposed to have been caring for him when he got out of school.
A trusted person.
Right. You know what I mean? But he did not know how to say that is something that was happening to him.
But that goes back to not having them discussions about what is sexual and what is appropriate and stuff like that. Because all you have to say is if anybody asks you to touch them here, or they touch you here or here, you need to tell me. First thing, such and such had my mouth on her titty.
Right.
Instead of, you know, don't go over there, but you never say why.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're not giving enough information because that's going to make kids go, well, shit, I wonder what's over there.
Yeah. But then you also have to remember, as in children's defense, you know, that a lot of times adults tell them, you know, don't tell, you're going to get in trouble, somebody's going to be mad at you. And so on top of the abuse, they lay guilt on top of them. You know what I mean?
I'll kill your mom or
you know what I mean? So then they feel like they have to do it, you know. So I mean that is exactly why it is important to have these talks with your children. But I mean, I just want to stress, I know we're talking about, you know, sexual abuse, but it's not just sexual abuse in the Black community that people have to keep stuff, you know, on wraps. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's just like physical abuse among relationship partners.
Shit, yeah.
Like you don't want to have anybody else in your business, because you don't want anybody else telling you. You don't want anybody else knowing what's going on in your house.
Because you're ashamed. And,
you want to have this picture perfect life on the outside or whatever. Because I don't want to make, any mistakes about it that, abuse is not like, just in the black community. Abuse is abuse or whatever. White people abuse each other, Indians, whatever. No. But I mean, specific to the black community, there's just a level of secrecy on top of it to where it's like you can't talk about these things. Yeah. And then in like the tweet, it's like, oh, I hope she's not brown because she shouldn't be saying this stuff because it's going to make us look bad.
First of all, I am not you. And if you beat your bitch about the neck and shoulders, that's on you.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
But it's just another way. It's just another form of victim shaming, though, because
it is.
So it's like, you need to be ashamed of what happened because you had some part in it.
In that.
Or whatever. And you need to own your part. Yeah. Versus, why is this person being a predator? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in our community, we don't necessarily see it that way. Because we're already concerned. We're just concerned about how we look.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I mean, I would like to say that I'm not ever concerned about that, but that's not true. Like you said, like sometimes I am concerned about how I look like, but it don't have nothing to do with me necessarily so much as it has to do with the way others view me.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Well, if I'm okay with my decision, and I'm like, I'm going to come out and say how I feel about XYZ. And I say it. And one person shows up and says, hey, don't do that because it ain't everybody's business. What the. So that makes me go, well, maybe I shouldn't be talking about my truth or whatever.
It shouldn't, though. But right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think, I agree.
So I feel like
a
lot of the time, like you said, it's just the judgment from outsiders that stops us from being able to say, hey, this happened,
But, I mean, you just have to let go of worrying about what the fuck other people think.
Yeah.
About you and just literally, and not just saying, oh, live in your truth. Like, no, like, deal with that shit because it's hard. It's painful and it hurts. Shit,
I think
it's
there's
real.
a lot to be said for being vulnerable with your kids, with your parents, you know what I mean? If I had just been, because I'm super open with my mom now, but then...
You weren't at that level yet.
I think I was maybe 5 or something. And then not having talked about sex at all. And even when my sister started having kids, like, we still didn't talk about sex.
5?
Mm-hmm. So it was like I didn't like y'all said, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know the verbiage for it. Because even when my sister started dating and having kids, because it was pretty much right after that, we still didn't know what sex really was. It was just like, oh, you're pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, like Danielle said, I know I keep talking about sex abuse, but I feel like that's just one of the major secrets among our community. Is
absolutely.
Well, you know what? I'll say this: like, my uncle sold drugs, and like,
are you laughing at me because I said
No, I'm laughing at her.
Like, I mean, it was a well-known thing in my family that he sold drugs, but nobody talked about it. Like when I remember the first time he came to Shreveport, where I'm originally from, like it was just like, oh, this is Uncle Larry. He's coming, we hanging out. He's going and buying a whole bunch of stuff or whatever. I had never even known him because he always lived in Houston. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, sexual abuse, but nobody in my family talked about the fact that this man sold drugs.
Right.
When people
do drugs, you're like, oh, such and such is sick. But really, that person smokes crack.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's more than just sexual abuse, So, I mean, we have a tendency to just keep things in-house.
But I don't know. And then the thing is like, I don't know if it's just us. I don't know if it's just the black community. Of course, I'm not white, and I don't know. I don't have any white family members I can ask. But I feel like, especially when it comes to, like, domestic abuse, they're real hush about that shit, too.
Are they?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, do you watch Lifetime? I fell.
I don't like Lifetime. I think it's fucking gay.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Ghey, not Gay.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely agree that people in other cultures, they keep things on the hush. But I mean, particularly, I mean, we're black. We're talking about us in our community.
Yeah, you can only discuss what the fuck you know. Like,
I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily any different. Well, I mean, it is different because I think the why is different for us because we don't want a
Massa coming over here to
why,
the
yes,
quarters.
Yeah, like the why. The why is
Massa
different.
gonna hear you.
You know, because we're supposed to have, elevated ourselves. You know, we don't necessarily, need them or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we're doing good on our own over here. Like why are you in our business?
Maybe I'm not black.
Possibly.
What?
just shut the fuck up.
Possibly. But whatever.
So we don't need who? White folks? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Man.
Well, of course. I mean, we only need ourselves. But
I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
I know, but I feel
For
like
real.
I've never heard maybe in my house, oh, don't tell people, our business.
Shit. I did. What happened in this house stays in this house.
Exactly.
That's what I mean, but it wasn't nothing fucked up or weird happening, but like my grandparents used to talk shit about people, and
just think about kids getting whoopings at home.
getting what?
Getting whoopings.
Whoopings?
Whoopings. Yes.
You said
Whoopings.
Whooping?
Whoopings.
Shreveport.
Okay.
Yes.
That is not Shreveport. Yeah, whooping.
Whoopings. Whippings. At home.
You should just say whippings.
Whatever.
That's
So, I mean, just think about that, though, like, in that context. You're not supposed to go to school and let anybody know that you're getting spanked. Right?
Well, I mean, I think you're not supposed to let people know you're getting whipped with like an extension cord, but like a regular whipping, like
Period,
My brother
period,
got
though,
paddled in
because if you go to school and say that, then now you have this teacher that's obligated to make a case. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're not.
I feel what you're
that's
saying.
not something that you're supposed to necessarily say because it raises red flags. Something like completely innocent, and it was not black people. It was a little white kid. She went to school and told her teacher that they have weed in their backyard, and the dad was shooting a video of the little girl, and he was like, you said that we have weed in our backyard. She was like, yeah, we got weed. And so he goes to the backyard, and he's like, show me where the weed is. Mm-hmm. And she's showing her the weeds in the grass. It's like, we have all of this weed. You see, there's weed here, there's weed here, there's weed there.
Oh,
or whatever.
She literally meant weeds.
Right, but she goes to the school and she says that, and now they're thinking that, they're like, got a whole homegrown farm.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? Like in the backyard. So there's that whole connotation or whatever, right? Yeah. So in retrospect, like you tell children not to say certain things or whatever, so that things don't get misconstrued, right. Or whatever, So you don't tell them, don't be up there telling them that I be hitting on you or whatever like that or whatever, because then they'll call
be up there hitting on them children.
Right, I call CPS or whatever, and they gonna take you away or whatever.
Know what the fuck CPS was?
But I mean that's that's what
lie.
it is.
Honestly, back in the day, whenever I was a kid, I didn't feel as worried about CPS or like, when I was in trouble, I'd be like, well, shit, I just got in trouble. I know other motherfuckers get in trouble too.
I didn't even know what the fuck CPS was, so I was like,
I didn't get any whipping.
But today, of course you didn't. But see, like now, I just, I'm concerned about disciplining my own kids because anything, like you said, could be misconstrued. And I don't want to have to be like, don't go up there telling people I punched you in the mouth because I punched you in the mouth. Of course, I don't do that. But it's like, first of all,
I don't give a fuck. I whoop kids. The end.
But what do you constitute a whooping?
Like, I will pop you on your ass. I still spank them on their ass. Like, I'm not like, knuckles to face type shit. Can't have them bruise my neck up. Right. That's how the man find out your business.
But you know what? I think because my granddad was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So I think my dad was kind of like that at home. Like, he was like,
it didn't matter.
don't be, and I would be like, oh, I'm sorry, what? I just told my white friends everything that happened in here.
Fuck you. Stop drinking, because I just found out you have a drinking problem.
All right,
No.
so I have a quick secret confession, and then we are going to give some advice and then rate our wine. Do you want to read it?
Oh, y'all know I can't read that good.
We'll make it
Okay.
bigger.
Secret confession. Almost a year ago, I told my parents about my uncle, let's call him John, had abused me when I was little. I finally came out with it because it was affecting me to such an extent that I couldn't bear it anymore. Only they were Only they were privy to this in my family, and I wanted it to remain this way. However, 2 months back, one of my cousins told me how the John's son, let's call him Jeff, had abused her for almost 7 years. Now, everything is out in the open, and some people in my family are completely disbelieving us and even slandering and harassing us. Because John and Jeff are father and son, I can understand why this seems unbelievable and too much of a coincidence. I'm so sad and stressed. My hair has started to fall out in chunks. I wish I had never told my parents about John. I wish my cousin had never told anyone about Jeff. Damn. Fuck them haters, man.
Right?
Fuck them. All of them. Fuck them. You don't need them.
But that just goes to show you the shame that's involved in
Associated with it.
these situations. Like, so you have this backlash, so people not believing you or what's going on, and then they make you feel shitty about it. On top of the shit that you've already dealing with. You're dealing with this person that has actually abused you, and it's like, oh, y'all not believing me, and then y'all are going to fucking shame me for it. Like, so it makes it difficult for somebody to actually want to even come out. And it's not even one person, it's two people in this situation,
But I'm sure it has to be difficult for a person to accept that someone they love is a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, man, I'm sorry that happened to you, you would just reject that, and you're angry because you now have to look at this person that you care about and you have to see them as they are. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's really hard too. But I would say to them, like, don't stop moving forward. You may have to get an apartment with your sister, or your cousin, or whoever the fuck she was. The cousins?
Yeah,
it was
a cousin, yeah.
Like, they might have to just really just try to stick together and just be them two.
I mean, my thought is that, sometimes you have to cut your family the fuck off.
Right.
Straight the fuck up. Because, why? First of all, I feel like it's not, oh God, perspective is such a motherfucker. Like, I would feel more inclined to believe that it is true because it's a father and a son fucking situation. Because 9 times out of 10, the father probably did some shit to the son and made that,
doing stuff,
or had him doing stuff and turned that motherfucker into a little baby fucking abuser. And then little baby fucking abuser goes and abuses your cousin while the dad fucker is over here abusing you. So you know what? Fuck them all. Because anybody who does not love you enough to listen to what you have to say and to believe you and support you or whatever, when it's something that's this fucking serious, like, cut them the fuck off.
Right.
You don't need them. Like, that's only gonna hinder. And I think I'm so upset about it because I feel like that's gonna hinder you as a person, trying to get better. You know what I mean? Yeah,
trying to hold on to the family that doesn't care. Yeah, and it's like, just don't even worry about it. I know it sucks, and you feel like you're going to be alone.
That's like these shitty ass people who post these wonderful family photos on Facebook. But bitch, y'all are fucking fighting every day. Y'all cheating on each other. He don't even know if 2 out of 3 of them kids are his.
Right.
Like, y'all going through the most, but because you want to just save face for social media, Facebook, whatever, then you're just avoiding the real problem. And I think that's a bunch of fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
You don't need them people. Like, fuck them. I'm sorry. Anybody who really loves you and cares for you is going to, at the very least, listen to what you have to say and try to find some truth in this somewhere.
Well, I mean, at minimum, you need to maybe distance yourself until you get in the right headspace to where you can deal with that situation.
Absolutely.
You know,
you and your cousin lean on each other for support, because I could only imagine how alone they must have felt, especially if their families really like that. Like, they must have felt so alone. So if anything, that's the one person that you know, lean on each other, because that's the one person that you know feels exactly the same way that you feel, because they experienced the same shit that you went through.
The cousin?
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like you shouldn't, I mean, even though your family is supposed to be there for you, they're also the ones who will sometimes be the biggest haters that you have.
You goddamn right.
And hurt you the most.
Right.
So if you guys feel like you need to move on without your family, then hey, so be it.
You need some new family. Me and Michelle taking in new families.
See, but the problem is I don't like anybody.
That's true. Me either. But I still talk to you, though.
Okay.
I give you advice.
Well, how did y'all like? I didn't even drink it.
You didn't?
Y'all didn't drink it.
Bitch, I drank the fuck out of this wine.
How did you like it?
How did you like it?
I'm going to give it a 22.
No reason why? Just 22? Okay.
Y'all know I love white wine.
She's big gulping
I had a good flavor on it.
A good flavor. Wow. Jesse.
It tastes of fruity.
Jesse.
Fruity booty. I liked it. It was good. It didn't have a lot of alcohol in it, but that's okay, because, like, who needs that?
I didn't even, like... Oh, this is one. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even... I don't even like white wines, but this one is...
Say it.
A 20.
Oh.
1.
Oh. Okay. There you go. What about you?
I didn't care for it at all. Like, it tastes like a level above a Moscato to me. Like, it tastes very dessert wine-ish. It is a bit sweet for me. Like, I didn't really care for it.
Yeah, sometimes sour people can't take sweets very much.
I mean, it is what it is.
This bitch.
So, I mean, I give it a 9.
You know why she did that? Because I like it. Match.
A 9? Not even a 10?
I'm not a fan of Moscato, and it tastes very much so like a Moscato to me. That's exactly, it tastes dessert wine-ish. I don't care for it.
So I picked this one because it's the Chenin Blanc.
Okay.
And we had a wine on a previous episode that was a blend of this and something else. And it was mentioned that the sweet, I guess-ness of that wine was pretty good. So I was like, let me go for one that has 100% that grape in it. But, okay.
I don't care for it. Like,
I don't like Moscatos at all. Rieslings, I hate them because they're too sweet.
It really tastes like Moscato to me.
Me either.
Moscato but Moscato is like super sweet. Like
no, and I was totally about to say that same thing.
Well, I had a what is it called? Gewurz or something. Oh fuck, I can't even pronounce it. And it tastes like a Riesling Moscato mix. It had like the bubbly.
Who the fuck drinks that?
It had like that bubbly.
That sounds very sweet. It sounds like a prosecco, actually.
It sounds like a diabetical.
You know what? It is kind of like it was kind of like a prosecco in the sense that it was a little bit bubbly, but it was like bubbly, sweet,
Prosecco's
dry
though.
And this is what this reminds me of, that wine that I had yesterday.
It's not
and
super
so,
dry.
Yeah, this is not dry.
My tongue is dry as fuck.
It's sort of like water.
Stop licking sandpaper or dry dicks. Oh no, I didn't have a joke. I didn't have one ready for that.
Nope,
all right.
Neither.
So what was the cumulative score then?
I didn't even add it up.
Okay, well,
this bitch gave it a 9 though. Like, I'm so bad right now
because I didn't even remember what y'all said. So
because
I was like,
I plotted out like buying this. I like went to go find this particular grape because, like I said on another episode, we had a.
I mean, I've had another one that I like, but this one it did not.
You think it was too sweet?
It was a little sweet.
17.3.
God damn it!
I liked it though.
I wanted to pair this with something for the
wine
of the month. No, it's not gonna make it.
I need one.
It's not gonna fucking make it. I know.
Okay, well, I mean, I thought it was cool. It's okay. We can't all like everything.
We what?
We can't all like everything. People
Dumbass.
are people, so why should it be? Just kidding. All right, so make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Do that.
Yo, yeah, check it. Holla, do that.
Okay, I don't know what the fuck she's going through
listen,
right now. But
I'm enjoying life.
You do.
The fucking clap is that? Okay, so yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you
Like
check us out everywhere else, and don't forget to go to podern.love. Pick up your tickets for the festival. It's gonna be dope.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Between Us Girls. But don't keep it a secret. Listen and share with everyone you know. See you next week.